Hello and welcome, my friends. I'm Mary and this is Mindful Movement with Mary. Today I have a short practice for you all about stretching the muscles of the legs, thighs, and hips that I designed specifically for you to do when you've come in from a walk, hike, bike ride, or even a run. So once you've done this type of outdoor cardiovascular activity, it's a great time to do some stretching because the muscles of the body are already warm and then they can lengthen more easily. So grab some water, take off your shoes, and then you're going to need a chair without wheels and a folded blanket or a pillow or cushion. And we're going to get started standing on the mat. So you're going to need a folded blanket, and you can control how high this blanket fold is. I'll show you what we're going to do, and then you can decide how high you would like the fold. I'm going to fold my blanket up pretty small till it's this round, rectangle-ish high square. And we're going to place one heel down on the mat and the front half of the foot on the blanket. You could also use a couch cushion for this, or even a bed pillow, or even your rolled up mat. And once you find the prop you're going to use, we're going to stand so that our body weight is over our heels, especially the leg that we're stretching. So if you're standing back farther away, you're not going to feel much stretch in the calf when you do this. So line your body up over your heels. Make sure that that heel you're stretching is down on the mat, and then your front foot is elevated onto whatever prop you're using. And you should feel a good stretch in the back of the lower leg. This is the calf muscle called the gastrocnemius that we're stretching. And it runs from the heel up through the Achilles tendon, the whole back side of the calf, and actually attaches right above the knee. So keep both legs straight here. If you need to decrease the intensity, if this is too much for you, please unroll your prop, or you can step back a little bit, shift your weight back behind the leg that you're stretching. If you want to feel more intensity, you would step the opposite leg to the side of your prop, or even a little bit forward and lean your body a little bit forward. That's going to increase the angle here of the foot and your shin bone, therefore intensifying the stretch in the lower leg. So find this perfect place of stretch for you, not too much, not too little, and take a deep breath in, and then a long breath out. It takes our muscles a little while to unwind when we begin a stretch. So we're going to hold these stretches today for about 30 seconds or more. That's the optimum length of time to do for a static stretch, up to 2 minutes actually. But anything less than 30 seconds, you're really not going to get a big benefit overall. Good. All right, so then we're going to back out of that side and switch to the other foot. So heel down and front half of the foot, including the ball of the foot and the toes, on the blanket or cushion. Again, straight legs for this version. And if you need to decrease, you either unroll your prop or perhaps you lean back a little bit, though I prefer you to unroll your prop rather than leaning back. If you want to increase, stepping to the side or even a little bit forward and angling your body forward. And this is a wonderful counter stretch after a hike or a run because we wear pretty substantial shoes when we do these activities. And even if we don't think of these shoes as having heels, they actually do. A lot of hiking shoes will have a pretty chunky heel, maybe even a ½ inch. And that makes a difference because our Achilles tendon then is a little bit shortened. So we want to lengthen this whole part of the calf and the Achilles tendon. And this can help us prevent future problems like plantar fasciitis or shin splints, balancing all the leg muscles this way is really beneficial. So not only are we doing this as sort of a post-run walk stretch, but it can also help prepare us for our next hike or bike ride or run. Good. All right, and then back out of that, we're going to go over to the first leg again. So heel down, front half of the foot on the blanket, stack yourself up over your heels, and this time we're going to bend that leg a little bit. So the leg that you're stretching, just an inch, half an inch or an inch bend, is really going to target a different muscle called the soleus, which is deep inside the center of the calf. So it's underneath the gastrocnemius that we were stretching a minute ago. And this muscle does not cross the back of the knee. So to focus our attention on that, we can actually bend the knee and isolate the stretch just between what's happening in the shin bone and the angle of the foot. You might feel this stretch a little bit more focused in a smaller area. You might feel it a little lower or a little deeper into the calf. So just notice this change. Notice how different it is from the first variation. Good, and then ease out of that, and we'll come to the second side. So settle in, find your stance, and then little bend to this leg. And this leg is a little bit tighter for me, so I can't bend it quite as far as I did the first side. Make sure you still have your heel down. So don't bend your knee any farther than you can keep the heel on the ground. And again, notice the difference in this stretch and where it might feel more intense in your body. Good, and then gently step out of that. You can set your blanket to the side. And we're going to stretch the front half of the foot now. So you might want to hold on to something like the back of your chair. And to stretch the top of the foot, we're going to send one foot back behind us. And you can see that I actually have the toes tucked under. So I'm resting on the top of the toes. So I'm not resting on the ball of the foot and the base of the toes like I'm about to spring. I'm tucking them back behind, resting on the top edge of the foot. And then again, stacking rib cage over hips. And imagine you're trying to sweep your foot forward like that, but you're not going to move it. It's just an energetic feeling of pulling the foot forward, and that will intensify the stretch through the top of the foot. This is also a nice counter stretch to wearing shoes and to walking a lot, because this is a position that we don't do when we are walking. So it's a nice counter stretch. Good. All right, and switching sides. Sending the opposite foot straight back behind you. And again, notice if you're leaning far forward like this is your body's way of sort of cheating and getting out of the stretch. So make sure your rib cage is stacked over your pelvis. And then this feeling of trying to sweep the foot forward without actually moving it. Beautiful. All right, and relax. So then we're going to do a lot of stretches using the chair. You could use the edge of your table, the edge of your coffee table, whatever you have around. I like a chair because it gives me a couple different options for height. So we're going to begin by stretching the hamstrings. Bring one foot to the seat of the chair, resting on the heel. And we'll begin to hinge forward at the waist. So I'm not rounding through the back here. I'm hinging forward, keeping the spine long. That's going to draw the focus into the hamstrings, these powerful thigh muscles. Really engaged when you're doing anything like walking, hiking, especially up and down hills. And if you have a tendency to hyperextend the knee like I do, you can always give it a little micro bend. And maybe that'll help you hinge forward even more. If you're very flexible or you want to feel more stretch, you could try to bring fingertips to the seat of the chair, to even the back of the chair if that's accessible. If you want to intensify this quite a bit, you can bring the back of your calf to the back of the chair and work from this height as well. Sometimes when I do that, I like to fold the blanket over the edge of the chair just to pad the leg a little bit. And even if you've been doing a lot of sitting and not a lot of walking, this can be a really nice stretch to counteract hours of sitting. All right, ease out of that, switch sides, opposite foot, stand up really tall, and then hinge forward at the waist. You can even imagine that you're rooting that heel into the chair and then trying to draw it back toward your hips slightly, again, without moving it. It's just a way of bringing balance to the pelvis so there's evenness from the hip points going forward. Sometimes when we place a leg up in the chair like this, we have a tendency to let that hip slide forward in front of the other. So we're just drawing it back a little bit. So if I was to take a rod or the broom handle across the front of the hips, they would be level. Beautiful. All right, and step off the chair. We're going to move on to the inner part of the thigh now. So you're going to stand perpendicular to the seat of your chair. Take one leg up on the chair, and this time what you're going to do is externally rotate that leg that's on the chair, which means toes are going to point up toward the sky. So they're not pointing forward, but up to the sky. And the kneecap is pointing up too, hopefully. And from here, we're going to inhale, reach the arms up, and exhale, lean over toward the chair. So we're getting a double stretch here, feeling some length in the side waist, the lower back, maybe the side of the lower back here, which is really nice if you've been doing a lot of walking and hiking. We're also stretching out the inner thigh. And if you're not feeling a ton of stretch in the inner thigh here, then you can, again, elevate the leg. So I'll show you that version here because I actually don't get a lot of stretch when I'm doing this version with the chair, which is why I do it on my dining room table instead. So you could take your leg all the way up to a higher surface. And when I'm doing this version and I'm really focused on the inner thigh, I might not take the arm overhead. I might just bring hands to hips and lean toward the long leg. And for me, that's a deeper stretch through the adductor muscles, which are on the inner thigh or the groin. Good. All right. And we're going to switch sides. So I'm just going to flip around. And again, I'll show you the first one. We're going to have the heel down on the seat of the chair. Make sure your kneecap and toes are pointing up, the rest of your body pointing to the side. And then you're just going to lean over toward that leg. Little micro bend to the knee still. Keep yourself from hyperextending and actually feel a really nice stretch through the lower waist area, which is nice as well. But then I'll also show you the second variation with your leg up on the back of the chair. Beautiful. All right, and release. Okay, and flip your chair around. We're going to hold on to the back edge of the chair and stretch the front of the thigh or the quads. So standing, holding the back of the chair, you'll reach down, take hold of an ankle. So I'm bending my knee in the front so I can catch hold of the ankle. And then I'm going to point the knee down toward the mat and grab hold of the foot. Grabbing hold of your foot, press the thigh forward toward the chair, really opening up through the front of the hips and the quads. Again, the quads are a really powerful muscle involved in all of these activities: hiking, running, biking, walking. It's very quad dominant, so it's important to stretch them out after. I especially think biking uphill, you really need to stretch the quads after that. And if it's challenging for you to reach for the foot, you could take the blanket, wrap it around, and extend the reach of your arm. You could also have a strap, belt, or tie. If you have that at home, you could use that instead. But as long as the knee is pointing down, you're really thinking about moving the thigh forward, you should be able to stretch the quads. Good. And release. We'll switch sides. So again, I like to bend the knee in the front. It's easier to catch hold of the ankle and then point the knee down and you have the foot and ankle. It's more readily available. Sometimes we get stuck trying to go straight back. And then knee pointing down, front of the hip, moving forward. So again, it's not actually moving, but you're feeling like you're pressing the front of the thigh toward the chair. And I'm just using the chair here as balance. You can also think about kicking the foot into the hand a little bit. It's similar to pushing the thigh forward, so you could try both of those actions to see which one intensifies the stretch most for you. Beautiful. And release. All right. So moving on to the end of our practice, we're going to take a seat on the chair. And my sitting bones are right toward the front half of the chair, sitting up really tall. We'll take one ankle, place it on the opposite knee, coming into this figure 4 shape. And again, we're going to lean forward, hinging forward at the waist. You can drape the arms down on the legs, feeling a stretch through the outer hip now. For me, this is the outer right hip. And don't forget to breathe. Sometimes we forget with the hip stretches because we're so focused in on what's going on with the hip, and it's a pretty powerful area, so the stretch can be intense. But send your breath there. This is your cool down time. So hopefully the breath is flowing smoothly. Beautiful. And then come up, we'll switch sides. Opposite ankle to opposite knee and hinging forward. You may notice an imbalance from one side to the other. These things are very common, especially in the hips, to have one hip that's more open or looser or stronger than the other. And then gently lift the torso back up, uncross the legs, and we'll conclude just with a little neck stretching. When we do, especially biking or running, people carry a lot of tension in the upper traps and the sides of the neck. So I like to take the hands down to the edge of the chair. Now, I have very long arms, so I have to kind of hook them onto the lower rungs of the chair here to feel grounded, but you might just need to hold on to the seat. But I want you to have long arms, shoulder blades moving down the back. So if you're holding onto the seat but your shoulders are up like this, that's not what I want you to do. I want the shoulder blades down, soft and down, and then pin them down by holding on to something, whether it's tucking your hands under your seat, holding onto the base of the chair, or even the rungs of the chair. Sit up really tall, feel the shoulder blades moving down and being held down by the hands. And then draw one ear toward one shoulder, nice and slow. You're probably not going to have the full range that you normally have because we have anchored the opposite end of these muscles down. So we can't compensate by hiking the shoulder up. And then gently, slowly, we're going to trace the chin down across the chest. And over to the other side, but go really slow because with the arms pinned down like this, you may feel all these different muscle fibers all of a sudden stretching that you don't normally have access to. So we're going to sweep back and forth a couple times. I'm going to let you go at your own pace and pause wherever you feel the most delicious stretch. So for me right here, I only went about a quarter of the way across again, and I'm like, no, I'm going to stay there for a little while because I'm getting some really nice stretch through the side of these neck muscles. So feel free to sweep back and forth, like I said, a couple of times and playing with exactly where you're feeling some good stretch. And when you're done playing around, chin toward chest, and then lift the head back up to neutral. And we're done. I hope that helps you enjoy your next walk, run, bike, or hike. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.